You are now listening to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. We preserve the history and sport of hunting through curious conversation and action-packed hunts, as well as offering you tips and strategy for more successful hunts. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. This is episode number 134. I'm Christian Babcock, joined by Jake_Gaylord. What's going on, dude?
You ask me what's going on every single time we start this thing, and each time it feels like I need to make that little small, like awkward small talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
you could just tell me how you're doing.
Good, pretty good. How about yourself?
When you ask me, I realize how awkward it is.
See, and every single time I got to like think of like this like
it challenges your joke making skills.
It does. And after whatever this is, 134 of them, you're just like, man, I'm running out of lines here. They can't all be funny.
You only got so many one-liners.
Yeah,
I'm with you. Well, for a large swath of the country, I assume about anywhere worth hunting besides Ohio, season has wrapped up, and we're in this crazy thing called postseason. And the work doesn't end here, but
that's right. Before we get
started,
gotta do your little honey-do lists, and that's when the real work begins. You just thought hunting and finding deer was hard? No.
Wow. You got a list as long as your arm, ready for stuff, home projects and things that you got to fix when you get home.
Oh, you have nothing to do this evening? I didn't say that. Football's still on, baby.
Football. Yeah. Are you excited that it's postseason? Are you glad you can actually sit in your chair for an evening and not feel like you're neglecting those beautiful deer in the woods?
Yeah. So Abby and I ran to town earlier, and
you live in town. How'd you run to town?
It's a figure of speech. Okay. It's a figure.
We
of
went
speech.
3 blocks into town.
Anyways. We weren't even running in town. We were actually running to my brother's. It was my sister-in-law's birthday today. And so we ran over there for like cake and ice cream and stuff. But tomorrow she's off work and I got to go to Joplin and pick up some parts. And she was like, oh, since we're like both not doing anything, we can make a day out of it. And I said, well, I'd like to be back in time to hunt this evening. And I kind of just let that soak for a second, see if she'd catch on, like, oh, hunting season's over, just to see if she would know. And she was like, oh, okay. Like you could kind of see the disappointment, just like kind of just sitting there. And all of a sudden she was like, isn't it over? And I was like, exactly.
Good.
She was like, okay, good. She was going to let me, but she was like, man, it's a good time for it to end. That's for sure.
Yeah. In a weird way, it feels like it lasted a year, but it feels like it was also like a month. So I'm happy that it's over. And for you, it's a little bit easier to get out into the woods. For me, it's like a trip to Disneyland. Every time I go hunting, it's like a 6-hour trip. So I'm very happy to not be spending like $150 a weekend and go shoot at a deer. Right. So we got a interesting episode. I don't know how interesting this will be to most folks, but since season's over, we do have some things that we still have to accomplish for most folks that leave a bunch of gear in the woods. So we're going to talk about a postseason checklist. Jake came up with these. I guess he's just a postseason extraordinaire. So what's the first thing that you would focus on from a postseason perspective?
So before we get into that, I just want to ask you one other question that I wanted to ask you kind of in the intro, but then I forgot. Are you burnt out? Like, did you ever burn out this season?
Yeah, in the mid part of November.
So like right now when season's ending, obviously you don't have any tags left, but it's just like, in a way, are you glad it's over?
Absolutely. Yeah, I am. It's a little different when you don't have any tags. You're like, let's get on the next season where the tags renew. It's kind of one of those sort of things. But no, I think I have a relational max on how much I can be gone and still stay in this thing called a marriage. So
those don't last nowadays. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
It's fine.
Statistically speaking, no. But I think that's more of it than me than the hunting thing. Like I would have no problem getting in the truck for another 4 weekends and just giving it a stab, but there's nowhere that I can drive living in the central part of Texas that is going to get me anywhere near or I can get to in a weekend. So
Right.
in that sense, I'm very glad that it's over. It was a great season, dude. I already got a text from our taxidermist that my buck I shot on October 1st is done.
It's a quick turnaround.
It is a quick turnaround, but dude, that was 2.5 months ago. No, 3.5 months ago. So October, November, December. Yeah, I shot that buck 3.5 months ago. I can't believe that. Yeah, I already have a deer done and season's been done for 4 days.
Get that money ready.
Yeah, that's a nice little cha-ching for
That's like the only bill besides like obviously you buying your hunting license and tags. But that's like the only bill you're like okay with paying. Electric, water, like they can shut that off. It's fine. But like taxidermy bill,
you hand over the taxidermy bill like gladly. You're like, take the money quickly and let me get back and looking at the deer, so I'm not as sad.
Yeah.
But when you put it in the truck and it's like a quality mount that is done the right way, you're like, I'm gonna look at this every day, every single day, and I do. Yeah, I have 5 on the wall behind me. I showed Lauren the picture of the 6x7. She goes, where are you putting that one? And I was like, right on this other wall. And she said, no, you need to pick which one you're going to swap out. And I was like,
so where's the other one that you're swapping out going?
I guess in the trash or the Goodwill.
Hey, y'all got tall ceilings. You can fit 1 or 2 or 5 in the living room.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm one of those guys that would not mind having like a spot or a room that you step in and you can't even like walk around it because there's mounts hanging off every wall. But that's not aesthetic. So we'll see how that goes. Back to the postseason checklist, Jake. As deer season wraps up, what's one of the first things that you think about doing that kind of gets you, one, putting a period at the end of this season, but also kind of get you started for the next season, just get you rolling?
So I learned from past seasons that grabbing your trail cameras as soon as possible is like the best thing to do immediately after season. Unless you're the type of person to like leave them year round and stuff like that. I'm all for that. But for me, I typically don't. Because it's like, well, what's the point of trying to take a picture of deer that doesn't have any antlers? So what I'll do is I'll try to take them down, or in this case on the private, suspend my subscription. That way it's not charging me through the months that I'm not really using it. But grab those, take those down. And especially the SD camera batteries, after you take those down, you make sure you kind of like take the batteries out, because past seasons, if you leave them out there and the sun gets to them when it gets pretty hot during the summer and they're old batteries, they'll kind of either bust, but we've had a few cameras ruined by that, where it just kind of starts corroding.
Like the rust and stuff starts. Is it rust? Is that what it is?
No, it's like literally like the battery juice that's like very acidic or something along those lines, and it'll like corrode and like eat away at those little metal things that the battery like uses to connect it to the whatever that magic is in there. Call Exodus for all I know. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, one of the things. So last weekend, it was the last weekend of deer season. Went and shot a couple does on Jared's place, but I took your kind of advice as this is a great opportunity to go grab all my cell cams, which subsequently had been dead since like freaking November. Go figure. A lot of that reasoning being that the coons pulled out my solar panel plugs, like they try to climb up on the camera and pull it out. So that was one of the things that I did last weekend, right before the season ended. And what I found it was a good opportunity to do when you're pulling your cameras, you're already in some sense putting some intrusion on your place, because I have trail cameras in spots that I'm not going to go to on the property unless I'm hunting with the correct wind. When you're pulling cameras, you're not necessarily, or at least I'm not really concerned about the wind direction that much, because I'm going in, I'm getting my cameras. These places are going to sit for 9.5 months before I hunt again. Right. So I took this as an opportunity to kind of do one last walkthrough of my my lease when the grass was kind of died down a little bit from what it looked like in the summer when it was all grown up. And I found a few new stand locations where historically this place has only been able to be hunted on the north wind. I found a really good transition area between some bedding and some food on the north side on some other private that I think I'd be able to utilize on a south wind. So I saw probably 30 acres of that 110 acre place that I had never stepped foot on, just because I'm scared and I always do it before season.
Right. So are you planning on like trying to go in there before all the greenery starts growing back up and hanging a sit, or are you?
Yeah, I think we'll do that in the summer. I think we'll do it in the summer once we go and get all other sits cleaned up and everything. But I think that's a good opportunity for a lot of folks. If you're already planning on going and maybe checking some of those long-term trail cameras that you've been letting sit out for 6+ months deep in the heart of your property, or you don't want to, it's not a place that you frequent very often, do it in one big fail swoop when you're already walking in your place. And I think that would be a great way to kind of kill two birds with one stone, especially in the postseason. You jump up a deer, one, probably not going to have a rack or maybe about to fall off. And two, you're already in there. So I just think it's a good opportunity to do that.
Now, I guess there could be some people that are like really big into shed hunting, because we've met those people that seem like they care more about sheds than they do about actually hunting the deer.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're one of those people, great. I mean, no big deal. You're kind of crazy in a way, but maybe they have that mindset of, I don't want to go stomping through there, almost like they're going to be hunting it, but they don't want to bump the deer before the sheds fall off. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's a good point. Yeah, you'd have to share my mindset of I'm not a shed connoisseur.
Right.
One, my eyes aren't trained for sheds, and two, like we've talked about quite a bit, is I would rather go walk a property and scout it than find a shed.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're planning on doing this upcoming February or March or whenever we go down there to try to shed hunt. But yeah, we're basically going to, our shed hunting consists of walking and trying to find spots
and hoping I kick one.
Yeah, literally. Literally. If one goes through my boot, I won't be mad,
Yeah, we went last year. We shot the Total Archery Challenge, and then we went shed hunting for one day after that. And they had found 60 the 2 days before, and then me, you, and Justin and everybody went, and we're like, okay, we found 2. What? And we walked for 8 miles. I was like, what the frick's going on here? We just suck at shed hunting?
I mean, yes, but I was thinking that they already hit it. They already hit that area for sure. I feel like
they missed 2 at least.
Well, shame on them.
Now, neither of them were worth picking up, but no, yeah, take that how you will. Another thing on the camera front that people probably aren't thinking about that I think can be extremely valuable, especially in the era of content creation and people wanting to make hunting videos, is taking all your SDs from that you've been using this year. And if you're anything like us, you probably haven't cleared them. You take them out of one camera and you shove them in another one, or whatever you like to do. They're in a cup holder. They've probably been, you were wondering where a bunch of our SDs were, and you're like, all right, I found 8 in a cup holder.
No, literally. Before we were scouting Kansas this summer, we were all fretting because it's man, we're gonna have to go to Walmart and buy 13 SDs before we can even go up to Kansas. And we were all complaining because we should have had all this figured out beforehand. And I was like, well, no, you actually told me, you're like, well, go look in your center console, because last year when we were hunting public, that's where a lot of them went to, is your truck. And I was like, man, I'm pretty sure my truck's clean, but I'll go look. I empty out my center console that's filled with nothing but receipts and papers. And at the very, very bottom, there was literally 8. And I was like, never mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So long story short, find those SDs that are in your bottom of your cup holder or your center console. And this is a great opportunity to either on an external hard drive or your computer hard drive, start creating folders for each one of your spots where you're hunting. And what I like to do is label it by year. So like I have trail cam pics 2023. I click on that folder and it opens up, 110 acre lease or, Kansas public, and then break it down by spots and folders and start dumping those photos. And for us, we use cell cameras that capture video. Some of the Tacticams that I use capture a bunch of video. And I just pull those videos from subsequent years and drop them in those folders so I have them. Because a lot of times what will happen, especially if you're interested in creating like hunting videos, is it can really help support a story. And even if you don't do videos, it's really cool to have that data from year after year and be like, check this buck out as a 4-year-old. Like, look at this video of him, or look at this picture of him. Yeah. And it's just like it's a really cool way to do that. And one of the things about that is what will happen if you don't organize them by year. One, you can store them on your phone all you want. We've all had the incident with the iPhone where you're like, lost all my pictures, or lost all my contacts. And if you do that on your phone, you're going to lose them unless you back them up some way.
Something you could do though, and what I've seen some people do, and I tried to do before, but then again, it just gets like too much because there's is once they're on your phone, a lot of people like to create like a trail camera picture and put it on X like a pin, and then upload the pictures from that area to that little pin, because I guess you can do that on the OnX app. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of store them there, which is kind of backed up in a way, because if you lose your phone, you can still log in on like your computer and they'll still be there.
That's a good point. But regardless of how you do it, whether you put it on OneDrive, Google Photos, OnX, your computer hard drive, an SSD, whatever you want to do, it's kind of tedious and it's kind of time consuming and it's kind of a pain. But I promise you, next season, when that buck that you have 3 years of history with comes by and you're like, oh, I got this picture of him, like, or you'll be showing your buddies all spring, like, I hope this one shows back up, or when you're shed hunting, you're gonna want those pictures.
Yeah. Well, how many times have you and your buddies been talking and just like, hey, do you remember that Diablo buck from 2017 or whatever it was? And you're like, oh yeah, no, but I remember that buck, but I don't know what happened to the picture. I don't have it. You don't have it. And so basically then it's just a memory.
And that sucks. Memories are cool.
Yeah.
But there's a good example of this is you shot a mainframe 12 on public. I had a sick trail cam picture of this deer on my computer. And this is why I say to use like cloud storage, like OneDrive or Google Photos, better than a hard drive. Because you shot that buck, we didn't find him, but we always describe him. We're like, 12-inch 2s, 10-inch 3s, and we're always like, do you have the picture? And I'm like, no, I don't have the picture. And I had crystal clear pictures of that deer, and it would just been really cool to have that picture and put the memory with it. But we don't now because we weren't diligent. So this is the time to kind of stop and be diligent, especially if you want to preserve multi-year history with a particular deer.
So what you're saying is learn from our mistakes.
Don't do
if that's the case, you have a lot to learn.
You're never going to run out of fuel. The Hunter's Advantage podcast is powered by Out on a Limb Manufacturing. Out on a Limb is a family-owned company based right here in Oklahoma that makes tree stands, saddle platforms, climbing sticks, and so much more.
Christian, I have a quick question.
What's that?
What bites down harder, a hippo or an alligator?
No idea.
It's a trick question. The Ridge Runner 2.0 bites harder than both of them. But all jokes aside, we use these products all across the land on public or private. These help us get into any tree we want and hunt where the deer actually are.
Most men go to the grocery store for their meat, but these products help you go to God's grocery store. I have used the Out on a Limb Ridge Runner 2.0 and the Shakar sticks for the last few years hunting public land bucks, and I've actually shot several bucks out of this setup. If you want to support the podcast and get some Out on a Limb equipment, make sure to go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 for 10% off at checkout. Once again, if you want to support the podcast, go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 at checkout for 10% off. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Moving on to like the blinds and the tree stands. I want to take blinds because I actually have a pretty funny story about that.
All right, let's hear it. Pick
up your blinds. And if you're anything like us, well, exactly. If if you're anything like us, we don't have any rednecks or anything like that. So when I mean pick up your blinds, I mean like the pop-up blinds. Like I hunt in, like you go up there, pop them up, stake them down, and hopefully it holds for the season. It doesn't half the time. But there was one time I bought my very first pop-up blind, and of course I'm still living back with mom and pa, and this was years ago, like possibly before I could even drive. And
been a while.
I was out back behind my house hunting my neighbor's property, which he allowed us to do, and I set up a blind and I just left it there after the season. Well, it was like in the springtime, and here in Oklahoma, those winds can get pretty fierce and stuff like that. Well, one day my mom was like, "Hey, your blind's in the backyard." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" That thing blew through like 2 pastures, over 2 barbed wire fences, and ended up in our backyard. And it was tore up to heck, but I was
going
just
to say,
like,
any holes?
Oh, it was ripped to shreds, but I was like, well, at least I don't have to go get it now.
God created some like new shooting windows for you.
Yeah. So get your blinds because you might not get as lucky.
Yeah. One that I was just thinking about that's like from this season about leaving a tree stand. So we hung a tree stand on a piece of public land, and Justin went.
We forgot about it, by the way.
We forgot about it. It had been there for a long time.
Yeah, we know you're supposed to take them down, and you're not even supposed to leave them on public. But this one we did forget about until this happened. So I just want to clarify.
Yeah. So Justin was hunting this November on this piece of public, which is my uncle. But he called me and he was like, "Yeah, I saw a big buck on this spot." And I was like, "Cool." And he said, "Yeah, you used to have a tree stand up there, didn't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, like you know exactly where it is. Like you know where that is. You shot at a deer right there." And he said, "Well, I found the tree stand, but it was on the ground." And I was like, "How was it on the ground? There's no steps up to this tree. There's no screws into it's just a suspended tree stand that you'd have to kind of bring your own climbing sticks to get up and get." And Justin said, "Well, there was a fire in this area and it burned the straps of your tree stand and it's on the ground." And I was like, "Dude, the tree stand was 15 feet up in the air, minimum.
Yeah.
Minimum. So there was a 15-foot flame that burnt through a heavy-duty strap and a ratchet strap on a tree stand, 15 feet up in the air." And so you think about that.
That'd get pretty hot.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess assess your area for natural disasters, but if in case of a nice fire, you really could get a tree stand burnt up. And that happened to us. Or another thing too is anything left on public land. I know you're not supposed to, and I don't know the regulation in every state, so I don't want to make a blanket statement, but for the most part, you probably shouldn't. There's a good chance that people can justify stealing your tree stand postseason. Like, oh, somebody forgot about it. That's coming home with me. Or I'm going to take that stand and move it.
You sound like you're saying this from experience.
I mean, I might have a couple in the garage. No,
jokes.
That's a really good reason to take care of your stuff. By the way, Biden bucks aren't getting any cheaper, so take care of the stuff that you already have.
Oh, that ain't no joke.
And you won't be looking for stuff on sale,
especially those SDs, dude. Like I know, at least I buy the on ones, like ONN, and they're like, I don't know, like
they're cheap.
Yeah, they're a lot cheaper than the ones that like they sell actually in the hunting section of Walmart. But yeah, if those things get any more expensive, it's like, man, we might need to go back to the old that old cassette tape stuff where you got to take them into Walmart to get it produced.
They're getting more expensive. I'm just going to leave my camera out there running on video.
Yeah. Plug
in a solar panel. But I think that's all. Did you have anything else on tree blinds and tree stands? It's this is a great time to pull your stuff and take care of it, because if not, you're going to be replacing it.
Right. So blinds and tree stands. Next would be anything else that you kind of take out to the woods with you. Meaning bow hangers. If you film and you leave your camera arm out there strapped to the tree, grab that thing, take it inside. It did work for you this season, hopefully. Not for me, but maybe hopefully for you. And Yeah, and plus, especially like on public, I know a lot of people do. They still use those screw-in bow hangers. Take those out of the tree because it could save some people some money, especially if you're hunting areas that get clear cut and those trees go to a mill where they get cut up. And if you have a piece of metal sticking in a tree, that's going to damage some blades. So just be mindful of that.
Or some lumberjacks going home with a nice little bow hanger.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That can happen too. Especially for the folks that are hunting public. I would hope that you would do this on private too, but it's easy to have a bunch of kind of trash and just nasty crap accumulate, whether it's in your tree stand or in your blind. And naturally that stuff kind of blows around the woods. And I think it's just good stewardship too, no matter where you're hunting. Leave the place a little bit better than you found it, because there's enough crap blowing around the woods. Like every day I don't live out in the country, but every day there's something in my freaking yard that blows in from my neighbor's yard and pisses me off. So let's just keep the woods a little, keep the woods a little cleaner than when we went in. I think some of the stuff that you had put was like the estrus dough drippers. Like I know it's easy to throw a can of that like spray that people put on their feet, right, for like the rut. Just throw that at the base of the tree and leave it. Just please, I beggeth you, just pick everything up that you brought in.
So this one, I didn't know whether to put it or not, but what's your take on like feeder batteries, like the batteries that you put in your little spin feeders? Do you ever take those out or?
No, I don't.
You just leave them?
Well, this is what inevitably happens though. Every season we use those 12 volts for those feeders because we have some pretty big ones. And every season, inevitably when we open up the compartment, like where it's got the screen, the display and stuff, it's full of wasps, and we have to like beat like dirt dauber nests off the battery post to like put them back on. But what's really good about those 12 volts and the solar panels that they put on these new feeders is they seem to be freaking pretty good. Like those 12 volts will last like a few years if you have a solar panel. So
do you just let it run even without corn every day?
I actually do. Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing. I mean, especially if the deer are already used to a weird sound going off it.
I think it's better than leaving it there and letting it just kind of atrophy and clog up. You know what I mean? I think like dirt or I don't know. I just think having it moving probably keep it in a little bit better shape.
You're probably right on that. What you got next?
We did blinds. We did cameras. What, you got a good one?
Wash your damn camo. I know a lot of people are against that, and Carroll's one of them because...
Is he?
Oh, so we had this conversation in Kansas, and it was early season Kansas. And
oh no,
for those that don't know Carroll, he wears one pair of pants, and I mean we all do,
and they don't fit.
But his pair is like the Fanatic, like bottoms, and so it is. I assume it gets spicy, and even that man can be butt naked.
He gets a little swass in there.
He has swass 24/7. So I'm just saying, like Carroll has once told me he's never washed any of his like Sitka.
That's why the deer are avoiding him like the plague.
Hell, apparently I need to not wash him. He got to this year. So no, like me, I'm not like I don't care. I'll wash Sitka, but I'm weird about it. Like I'll wash it all in one load, like together, just so I guess stuff doesn't get separated. But I'll use just regular detergent and then go about my business.
I mean, 9 months later, it's not going to smell like a daisy.
No. And that's the thing, like, because where we hunt and stuff, it's like you're going to sweat. Even if you do the most scent-free thing, by the time you take 5 steps out of your truck in the early season, you're already going to be sweating scent. And that's not even including once you get to your tree, packing in all that crap. You're going to get moist. You're going to get a little bit of odor on you. So, like, it's not going to hurt you putting a little bit of soap on that bad boy and throwing it in the dryer. Maybe not even throwing it in the dryer, but, like, put a little bit of soap on it before you put it up. Because if not, all you're doing is taking 3 to 4 months worth of sweat and probably mildew at this point, and you're throwing it in a tote and saying, See you next season.
Ferment, baby.
Literally.
I think that's a good point. Because, and I agree with you on the soap thing, one time a year, like after season, so postseason, because you ain't getting some of those smells out with a Scent Away detergent.
Oh God. No.
Trust me, I've tried to put some Scent Away over some BO, and then I'm like, yeah, scent kind of away. It's not, it ain't all the way. Yeah. So I think one good wash a year with soap is good. And one thing I would add to that is I always air dry my Sitka stuff.
I do too.
Just because I don't like ripping. I feel like it rips like threads and stuff to tumble it in the dryer, and that's some really good merino like wool gear, and so it's fine outside air drying. But we probably just pissed off a bunch of John Eberhart like scent guys that wear like the scent suits and hunt with the wrong wind direction.
If it works for them, great. Like if that's what they want to worry about. But the thing is like half the time I probably go, especially in Kansas, like as much as we drove and had to like fill up, I bet you I smelled like gasoline most of the time. And it's just like if you worry about that stuff and you try to hunt as much as possible, it's just like, especially by December, you're going to wear yourself thin. I couldn't imagine.
There's been clothing that I've put on to go hunt, and I'm like, God, I'd rather buy a new piece than wear this out. Like, you already smell like an onion on the way. I wonder if deer like wild onions, because that could be why I'm attracting them. It's disgusting. Please wash your stuff. Oh, by the way, you get a lot of dirt buildup in that. Like, you could probably wring out some of your garments with freaking dirt by the end of the season. It's probably good to get rid of that, because my camo like starts to turn red by the end of the season. So because of the red dirt, and I bet I broke a washing machine with as much dirt as I've had in some of my stuff.
That's awesome. No, after we turkey hunted at Jesse's, I lazy, whatever you want to call it, I didn't wash my stuff, and like kind of like you said, the red dirt, and we were like spot and stalking. It was the year you shot that one that we got on film, and like you said, like my knees were like covered in red dirt, and I just threw them in that tote and just left them because I was like, I used them for like 2 days. It's whatever. And when I got them back out, like literally the knees were like pretty much stained red, and I was like, cool,
awesome.
I mean, it's fine. I mean, hopefully people think it's blood and think I'm a killer. So
that's true. Yeah. Give them a wash, boys.
Yep,
please.
Yep. All right. What's next?
Something that I did recently, which is clean out your truck. SDs out of the cup holders. I took out,
you might find some loose cameras in there too. I did.
Yeah. Trail cameras. I took out some paracord, took out some baby wipes. I found like another lens for my camera that I've been using, SD cards for my camera. Oh, coolers out of the back of your truck. Dude, I found a broadhead in the back of my truck in the bed. It's just like
sweep it out and run over it later.
Because when you're at deer camp, especially on public land, like your bed of your truck becomes a trash can. And so people are like 20 feet away from your bed with a Red Bull can, like, Kobe, just throwing it. And so I just naturally find like fishing bait or just something stupid in the back of my truck that I did not put there. Take that kind of stuff out.
Or if you live in town, kind of in a shady neighborhood, you just find random beer cans in the back of your truck. And you're like, at least they didn't throw them on the ground.
Yeah. No litter bugs. No litter bugs. Yeah. That's what I would say about the truck. I tend to leave like a bunch of clothing in my truck too. Like, I try to take the minimal amount of stuff out.
I have. So whenever we got back from our little two-week vacation, I literally had, I think, 7 sweatshirts just piled in my back seat. And I didn't know it at the time because I had my back seats folded up, and that's where they were all like smushed as between the seats. Literally had 7 sweatshirts, and they weren't camo or anything, obviously, but like, I was like, man, where's all my sweatshirts? Because this was like a week after we get back, and I was like, I guess I lost them all or something. And I look, and I finally found them. Folded my seats down. There were 7.
Well, for people that have been hunting all season and they're worried about cleaning their truck out, you might get all like your Hunter's Advantage merch out of your truck. It might be good. It might be like piling up. You might have Hunter's Advantage hats like piling up on the dash. Make sure to get those out. You don't want to stain those, or you're going to have to go to huntersadvantagemerch.com and get another hat or a shirt. I mean, you might as well anyways, but
what I'd recommend is buying one of each. That way you can, or maybe even two of each. That way you can have like one set of rough and dirty and like, hey, I want to get deer blood on this
weathered
thing. And then the next, you have a clean set for date night,
That's true. Now that I think about it, you should leave that thing in the sun on your dash and get another one.
Well,
they're beautiful, pristine.
I'm just saying, I have two, or I guess 4 hats. There's like 2 black ones, and then I have 2 of the same camo ones. One hat I've probably used for two years now, and this because I got 2 because I was like, I'm going to use one as a nice hat and use one as like my hunting hat. It's going to get beat up. It's going to be a fly swatter. It's going to be like if Peyton's pissing me off, he's going to get smacked with it. And that thing's been rained on, and I'm not trying to go sweat through multiple times, but nonetheless, that thing is still holding strong. And I have like a whole hat rack on the back of my door, and there are times where I'm like, which one's which? Like I have to like really look at them. I'm like, which one's a good one? Which one's one that probably smells like butt? And so I'm just saying they're quality.
If you like Richardson 112s, it's like the infamous hat, leather patch, quality, boys.
They are
quality.
If you don't think they're quality, send it back. We'll give you your money back, but I can guarantee it.
That's true. I'll wear it. So what's wrapping us out here? What else you got? What's the last thing you got for a postseason checklist?
So this would be more kind of along the lines that you were saying, kind of like store your pictures on like a cloud or something, but this would be update OnX or whatever mapping software you use, because kind of like we run into a lot of times, especially just right before season and then right when season first starts, like on the public land that we usually hunt. Cameras are kind of getting tossed around and moved different places and pulled by different people that's hunting those spots. And sometimes you lose track of like if we pulled that camera or not, because especially in like the mountainous area, kind of where we hunt, you could have a pin on that camera, and if you don't know the exact tree it's on, then you're probably like really not going to find it, because every tree basically looks the same. But update that. And so when you go to pull your cameras, if you want to use, like, if you don't leave them out there all year long, if you want to like keep that spot but just pull the camera, keep that OnX pin there of the trail camera, but maybe change the color to a different color, so like, hey, that camera's pulled, it's inactive, and then move on. Because if you go to pull, let's say you have 20 cameras and you go to pull, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, we only have like 17 here, what's up? That way it'd be hopefully a little bit easier to kind of backtrack and see, oh, we missed this camera over here. That way you're not backtracking to 20 different spots.
That's a good point. I think another thing you could do within the actual app is if you pulled all your stuff and you plan on going to a new area, or you plan on hitting that area back again, delete your unused spots that you're not going to hang a camera again, because you will light up your Spartan Forge or your OnX or your Hunt Stand, whatever app you use. You will light that thing up like a Christmas tree, and it will start with all those camera symbols, all the different colors. You will start wondering, is it here? Is it this one? When did I put this point out? It gets very overwhelming. I mean, I've got one WMA lit up literally like a Christmas tree. Every color, one thing that we do every year is like when we put out camera, we choose like a certain color for the year. Like we're going to say, hey, this year is going to be white, so we're going to use cameras with white. But you forget year to year.
100%. Or you're like walking in the summer, it's super hot, and then one person's phone dies, and then they're like, mine's at 5%. I got to hurry up and lay this camera down, so we know it's here, and they end up doing it in red or something like that, just the default color. So, I mean, it ain't all going to be perfect, but just make sure your ducks are in a row.
Yeah. Anything you can do to make sure that you got everything figured out will make a better experience the next time you go to put them out.
Also, what I do sometimes is like if there's an area that or an area that you kind of hunt typically around, but you know that like, hey, I already checked out this spot and it's like, I never want to come back here again. What I'll do is I'll put like a black X like in that spot where I'm like, okay, I've already seen that spot and I don't like it. And I know I don't like it. Could I shoot myself in the foot in the future? Maybe. But that way it's just like, you don't get 2 years down the road. And it's like, hey, we need to go check out this spot. And you can look back on that and say, did we check that or not? You see that black X, you're like, we're not going there. I can guarantee you.
I do that with like entire deer units in Kansas. I say, no, never again.
I don't know how many of those little weehaws we checked off. Yeah. It was nutty.
Yeah, you walk up to a weehaw and there's like 80 head of cattle on it and there's not a single tree. You're like, doesn't look like a deer hunting spot.
Are you sure this is weehaw?
Yeah. Man, can't believe it's postseason. I think we had a pretty comprehensive checklist there for people to check off. Oh, and you got one more?
Well, yeah, one last thing. Wax your bowstring and then oil and clean your rifle, especially all you rifle hunters that also do a little bit of both. You're like, hey, I want to take my rifle like 2 days. You put your hands on it, do that stuff. You throw it back to the gun cabinet, finish out bow season. You're like, I forgot to clean it. Next thing you know, next season you pull it out and it's like there's rust on it. And it's like, I could have prevented that.
Yeah, and if you don't want to spend $150 on a brand new bowstring in August, make sure to wax your stuff. Make sure to not keep it in your freaking garage.
That's a good one.
As it starts to heat up, throughout the year, that string can stretch and it can affect your shot, it can affect your timing, can affect your tune. So just store your stuff wisely. I mean, stuff will last if you take care of it. I mean, that sound like my grandpa. I promised myself I would never sound that way, but now.
Well, that's what happened to me in Oklahoma public land this year. Like I shot one right over the back, and I think it's because I left my bow out in the truck all night one night. So
is that right? That was it?
That's what I'm telling myself. Yeah. But anyways, continue.
Yeah. No, I can't believe season's over. It's going to be here before we blink again. It's going to be here again.
I would go to say that the off season is the second best time to like be a hunter.
Yeah.
As crazy as that sounds, really because I mean, I know what you're thinking. Like there's only 2 times that like, you got, season and then off season. Of course it's going to be second. No, but what I mean is like, besides shooting a deer and I guess recovering it, what's the second best thing? And I'll give you a hint. It's called Christmas morning. Finding one
on a trail camera.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that not the best feeling?
Creating a personal vendetta in your mind against a deer, like they took your lunch money or something.
This deer doesn't even know I exist, but damn it, it's on.
Yeah. The more he messes around, the more he's going to find out.
That's what I'm saying.
I did want to give you guys a little insight into kind of what we're thinking for the podcast this year. We want to get more regiment on the podcast. We want to get a little more focused on the series that we do. So I think we're going to start breaking it down into somewhat of a 4-week series. It might be 4 weeks, might be 3, might be 6, but regardless, we're going to start taking the season in series. And the one that's going to be coming up the quickest is going to be, I don't know if we have an official name for it yet, but I've been calling it like successful seasons. So interviewing folks that have had a fantastic season, are absolute killers, and digging in some of the tips and tactics from those folks on what makes them consistently successful. So we're going to do that and try to get on some big names. We've already booked Joe Miles, which if you guys know him from Osseo Gear, super cool dude. Also probably one of the best bow hunters on the planet, is just a straight up killer. I think he killed in like 5 or 6 different states this year. So we're going to start up in the quality of the guests that we're bringing on the pod. Because
are you saying the other guests weren't quality?
Well, we were the other guests, like 70% of the time. No disrespect to the guests we've had on before, but we have been 70% of the show, and we want to kind of diversify and bring you guys some more value by bringing in some different folks. So stay tuned for that. That is coming. We're booking a lot of folks now.
Also, I don't know if you explained this or not, but like different kind of like what you said, like this series is going to be successful seasons or whatever you called it. And, the next one might be a series about, getting started into filming. And the next one might be about shed hunting, like along those lines, or summer scouting. But if you all have any ideas on what you would want to hear, like, hey, I want a series about this, feel free to shoot us a message, because in all honesty, like if you message us something, and as long as it's worth the hoot, like we'd be like, oh yeah, that is a good idea. And that would just kind of excite us a little bit more.
Yeah. And if you see a series or you hear of a series and you say, hey, I think X person would be a fantastic guest.
Ooh,
and I
good.
love when I hear them talk about summer scouting or postseason scouting or shed hunting, whatever it is. If you have people that you think would be a great guest and you think that we could get something, a great podcast with, like Jake said, shoot us a message and we are happy to reach out to those folks and try to get them on the pod. So, that's a little housekeeping. We got a new video up on YouTube if you guys want to go check that out. It's graphic. It actually is. It's 4K, blasting some late season deer with a little behind the shot pass through angle, which I do say so myself is some of my better work on the second angle. So that's up on YouTube. Go check it out.
A lot of damage is done there.
A lot of damage is done. I thought using my thumb button release, I just sucked really bad. And, they weren't my best shots in the world, but let's just say deer in the late season are spooky. They are jumpy.
For good reason.
Yeah, you're going to go check out the video to see that. But anyways, go check us out. Shoot us a message on Instagram, hunters_advantage, I believe is what our Instagram is. If you guys want to go tell us who you want to see on the series. Check us out on TikTok, YouTube, subscribe. Oh, and by the way, there was a
5-star rating.
Yeah, 5-star rating and review if you can. That's what I was going to get to. We had a guy the other day message us on Instagram, and he said, "Hey, you always ask for podcast reviews, and you always ask for Apple or Spotify." He said, "I was going to leave you a review, but you didn't ask for Google, so I'm not going to." So
that's awesome.
If you're listening, this is me asking for a Google review.
All platforms.
Yeah, please. Oh, his name is, let me check it out right quick. Oh, he doesn't even have a name on his profile. His name is Moo Boy 4. He sent me a big picture of a.
Sounds like it's from Kansas.
Central Illinois.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he sent me a picture of like a freaking mid 160s deer that somebody shot. But anyways, give us a rating and review if you enjoyed it. 5 stars, please.
Sounds like me and Moo Boy could be pretty good friends. If he's shooting 160s, I want to shoot a 160. So, we can make this work.
Our interests are aligned.
Best friends.
Yeah. So do all that stuff and we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Appreciate it.
Jesus love
you. Bye. Thank you guys so much for checking out the Hunter's Advantage podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to the podcast. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next episode.